The Ottawa Senators. So I want to read you a timeline here.
Are we just doing that now?
Yeah. January 10th, the Sens hired Jim Little
Okay.
as CEO. March 6th, he's fired. And
So close.
in a statement, yeah,
So close.
what was it, 50, what's that, 54 days or something like that? No, around there.
56, something.
56 days. This is the quote that stands out from the Ottawa Senators' statement about his release. The decision, quote, the decision was made as a result of conduct inconsistent with the core values of the Ottawa Senators and the National Hockey League. Now, the reason this is such a big deal is beside the fact that the Ottawa Senators are a joke of a franchise. They've been
were
really
so
good
close.
this year, but so apparently, so as you know, before I go into that, Alex, I want to ask you something. When you hear, as a result of inconsistent with the core values of the Ottawa Senators in the NHL, what do you think? With everything that's happened around
Something
the
bad.
NHL this year.
Something bad, but we were assured it wasn't bad by Gary Bettman.
Yeah, and at the GM meetings, Gary Bettman just came out and said, it's not what you think. And Mr. Little responded, basically saying, listen, I'm going to paraphrase here. Me and Eugene got into a bit of a scuffle here. There's a bit of a disagreement. I'm going to try and get the tweet up here.
Yeah, no, I saw it. So the thing with this story is that things are still coming out. So yesterday, the National Post put out a story that tied the firing to ex-wife's allegations.
Whoa, hold on a minute. Wait, what?
Yeah.
Ex-wife allegate? What, like, about Eugene's?
No, about Jim Little. About CEOs firing tied to ex-wife's allegations. And there was some things there. I don't know exactly. Listen, that's what the thing is. And I don't think we're ever going to actually know. I don't think obviously Jim Little has told us what he thinks the reason is. I don't think Eugene Melnyk is going to come out and say what the actual reason was. I just don't think that's going to happen. If what this article is saying is the case, then
Just from Elliot Friedman from Headlines last night. Jim Little said to Eugene Melnyk on the call that apparently got him fired. This is the best thing I've ever heard. Quote, the best thing that could happen to the Ottawa Senators is if you disappeared for 12 months.
right.
That's Jim Little, Sens former CEO, to their owner, a notorious meddler, Eugene Melnyk.
So this is what the National Post article says. I'm just going to read a blurb of it.
Yeah.
After the argument and during an investigation into Little's behavior, the team discovered that Little's former spouse published online accounts alleging abusive behavior during her marriage. The National Post has learned, while there were signs of insecurity and controlling tendencies early in our relationship, I told myself the good far outweighed the bad, Laura Smith wrote in an article published August 28, 2019. And then the next part is kind of just describing, it was just quotes from that blog post. So a team spokesman said there was a direct link between the Valentine's Day argument with Melnyk and with Melnyk, an investigation into Little it sparked, Smith's allegations and his dismissal. This is Dan Gagner, who is the spokesman for the Senators. The Ottawa Senators can confirm knowledge of the blog post, which was discovered following Mr. Little's February 14th outburst, and as a result of an ensuing investigation into his behavior leading up to his dismissal. It was one of the issues that gave the organization grave concern.
It still makes the Sens look terrible.
Not really. I understand from a certain perspective, it makes them look terrible because they didn't do their due diligence beforehand.
When 2 months
and
before
look
the
into
Don
this.
Cherry thing happened.
2 months after.
They hired him in January. Don
did
Cherry happened in November.
So 2 months after.
Didn't I say after?
You said before.
Before? No, yeah. This 2 months
happened-
before they hired Jim Little, Don Cherry.
Oh,
happened.
sorry. Yes.
Yeah. What were you going to say? Yeah, you're saying it does, but in another breath.
It does, but then this kind of makes sense. Like, the firing looks reasonable now because we have this information. Whereas before, all we were told is that there was a dispute and he swore at Eugene Melnyk, which doesn't look good at all. But it still looks bad because they didn't do their due diligence like this before. And I can imagine now. But at the same time, I don't think many teams were doing their due diligence at that time anyways, even after the Don Cherry thing. I don't think it really started to become an issue until all the firings happened. Everything was kind of out in the open. Everything.
What exactly was Bill Peter? It was in January, but it was like late January, wasn't it?
I don't remember off the top of my head. But this makes the firing make more sense.
Yeah.
Right? They have to do their due diligence next time. And can I just say it must be, and I know we're talking about Eugene Melnyk, but it's difficult. I have respect for Pierre Dorion, a little more respect for Pierre Dorion.
And especially Brian Murray too. The late great Brian Murray, of how he was able to manage that.
That's what they need. They need someone, and I feel like I've talked about this before. We probably had this discussion on the podcast. That's what they need. They need because Brian Burke was talking about it on Hockey Central this week. I guess it was on Friday. The CEO is kind of in charge of business things when it's in this scenario.
Yeah.
That's my understanding. I think they might need an actual president of hockey operations to just control Eugene Melnyk. In general. And to be honest, it's been a very quiet year for the Ottawa Senators.
Which is such a good thing. The Bobby Ryan story, G.J. Smith is working his magic. The standings weren't reflecting it, but it was a great rebuilding year. You know, they had a great deadline.
It was a fun team to watch, even though they were losing.
Yeah. You said it last week yourself that normally you don't watch more of the bottom feeder teams, but the Sens are a team that you would watch if they were, you tune into the Sens game. Yeah, they won last night versus the Sharks, which is very good. They're helping the Sharks pick there, in a way.
Exactly.
By the way, the Peter stuff did happen in November as well. It happened just towards the end of it. So it does, and that again is something on Eugene Melnyk.
It's something on Eugene Melnyk, but there's the good and the bad when it comes out when they're with this situation coming out for the Ottawa Senators. Yes, they should have done their due diligence, but they could have just kept them.
That is true. And then it comes out, and then it's then it's a bigger tire fire. But are they gonna? I wonder, because it makes sense why it wasn't reported on headlines about this, because that's a very serious sort of allegation thing, and instead it seems that Friedman went the route of talking about the line about it would be good for the Sens if he left. So I wonder if there was two different things, and maybe if Eugene had the thought that he was gonna fire him, and then maybe him saying, "Hey, Eugene, you're a meddling piece of bleep, get out of here."
So the thing is that conversation led to the investigation.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Right? So my guess is I don't think we know the full extent of this conversation. I think because he said you need to kind of take a step back for 12 months, I don't know if that's something that pushes Eugene to go through an investigation. I think there must have been more to this conversation than what we're being told.
Then what do you think Gary meant when he said it's not what you think? Because if it was this thing with his ex-wife, then that very much screams to me that is against the core values of the league and the team. Or maybe just did Gary not know?
that's a possibility. I think he meant it's not player related.
Not Bill
Or
Peters.
it's not staff related.
Mm-hmm. Or hockey staff quote. You know, a GM, a coach,
Right.
something like that.
That's the route he was going. Knowing Gary, it probably is because he likes to not keep himself backed away, but he's a lawyer.
Yes.
That's all I'm gonna say.